15 years ago, when I graduated from university, I started working for an international organization part-time on security sector reform. My mother, instead of congratulating me, started calling me in the office and teasing me and asking what has happened with her big protester and demonstrator. She was teasing me for working with police after spending years in protests against the repressive regime of Milosevic and confronting police as the face of that regime in the streets. I wasn't sure how to respond to her question, nor whether I want to stay at that work, until the moment when the first democratically elected prime minister of my country, Zoran Đinđić, was assassinated by the members of intelligence service who had the police badge at that time. I've gotten an incredible opportunity to do a research within the police during the state of emergency and to get to know this institution better. And this is when I came to the two realizations. First was that security sector institutions are particularly difficult to reform. Because of their culture of secrecy, there is mystique and mystery around them. Because of their unique knowledge and expertise on how to deploy violence, they frequently manage to condition politicians to let them make decisions instead of politicians. And because they actually have tools and are ready to use them against those that dare to challenge them for what they are doing wrongly. The second important realization I got through this experience was that actually some of the police I talked to share the same concerns as most of the ordinary citizens of my country, that they were, in a way, citizens in uniform, and many of them also suffered abuse by the regime, being deployed as military in conflicts, far away from their families, or doing things that they disagreed with. These two realizations brought me to the work in a research of security. And I want to share with you today why I think it could be an important contribution to the peace building. In a region where I live, the Balkans, much of security is discussed not only in national terms, but also in regional terms, and blaming others and fearing neighbors is frequently used as an excuse to avoid accountability at home. And this is why the organization I'm heading that deals with research has, a few years ago, started working on researching security aspects of the relations with our neighbors. We wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have a partner on the other side, so to say. So we from Belgrade Centre for Security Policy, together with colleagues from Kosovo Center for Security Studies, start doing research together, which made possible for us to get the pieces of the puzzle, to get the data that is usually not presented in capitals, and to combine a picture that is not shown to the home population. This wouldn't be possible if we haven't first built the trust among each other through collaborative research and realized that despite possibly disagreements on some of the political issues, we do share values of rigor in research and also courage to challenge our home security institutions and political elites when they are doing wrong. Because of partnership, it was possible to exchange researchers and to get the first-hand data on what was going on in the field and that was not reported. Our researchers did, before the governments, an analysis of how well the Serbian minority police officers got integrated in the Kosovo police. We got the information from Pristina, Belgrade, but also from Kosovo Serbs that were in between. And before the governments and before the EU that mediated the deal, we had the information, but also were able to highlight some of the challenges that will come after the agreement is formally implemented. In this process, I've learned three things that are important for research to actually work and contribute to the piece. First thing is that as a researcher, your primary role is to ask difficult questions. You should not take anything for granted. You should ask unthinkable questions, especially because security is usually the red button word that is turned on when politicians want us to think through emotions, through fear, and not to think. By asking questions, the process of thinking already starts. Some of the questions that I found especially valuable are: who is security for? Who do you promise to protect? And who is going to be excluded by you protecting this group? Or who do you blame to be a threat? The other question, which is kind of sacrilege, is how do we know that something is actually a security threat? Why should we believe politicians and security professionals when they tell us that something is a threat? Have they actually considered all the relevant evidence? And have they actually considered people's views on this matter? Similarly to what one of my predecessors said, we found through asking these kind of questions that actually not all of us have the same perception of what is a threat. And for one reason or the other, young men in particular are kind of more ready to justify use of violence than their elderly compatriots. And women frequently feel more in danger than men on a number of issues. And the last, most difficult question to ask is, what are we ready to invest to get security? I don't mean money and financial resources. I mean asking a question: what are the values that are willing to sacrifice to get security? Because frequently, when the red button is turned on, we are asked to get rid of transparency, we are asked to get rid of a dialogue, and to accept the urgency in solving solutions. The last thing that I wanted to highlight with doing research on security in conflict setting is that it has to take into account not just facts, but also emotions. Because emotions and meanings that people attach to things are actually getting a better understanding. I'm going to conclude with a real example of a month ago when we did the research in Mitrovica, a divided city, on a bridge that is supposed to unite the two divided communities. And when one of my colleagues on a question of citizenship got hit in the head by an elderly man who immediately started crying and apologizing for doing this and showing his despair for not being able to get the other citizenship that would give him benefits he needs and rights to enjoy. If we reported on this matter only as a number of people who are in favor or against opening the bridge, we would get only part of the picture. But taking into account emotions that people attach to these things actually gives a fuller picture. And last but not the least, research does not make sense if you don't get engaged with people who are going to implement your recommendations or that are affected or who disagree with your views. Thank you.